Thank you very much. I think we are uh, basically moving into the next segment on the back of what we've heard a lot before in the first segment, and that is today, we talked about how India is progressing in every field, etc., in the first segment. But now we have G20 and beyond, and how India is making a global impact, and what needs to be done more on the brand India front. So I think we will essentially be looking at more of branding. How does India preserve what it has achieved so far, and what more needs to be done, both internally and externally. I'd like to start with Excellency Freddy Svane first. So you have recently come off the G20 summit, right? Which was quite successful. And let's start by discussing Brand India from that perspective. How do you see the current brand positioning? And what does it mean for the business leaders and the administrative leaders here who are in attendance?
Thank you very much, my dear friend Anil. It's a good question. I have tons of good answers, but I will be very brief. It means everything. We need a strong, also future-oriented and action-oriented India. And I think the brand that you have created during the G20 summit is really stating that India is moving from being a local player within Indian boundaries. Now you're a global player. You have set out a compass for the whole world, whether it's about energy transition and climate and so forth. You managed really to bring the Delhi Declaration in place. And that was not a given thing if you look into the Ukraine conflict and all that. So that the fact that you managed to do it is speaking about the values that you stand for, but also the determination you are standing for. And you have to position yourself. I mean, you can't just be inward looking, and therefore it's so important that you keep up the spirit and you keep up the momentum in the span in such a way that you can really set the direction. A strong India is the need of the hour. Without a strong India, I sincerely believe there's no chance that we'll be able on a global level to solve any issues, whether it's about poverty, whether it's about climate, whether it's about how to tackle the new technologies like artificial intelligence. So you have branded yourself brilliantly, but we need action. And therefore, whatever comes in 2024, implementation, execution has to be the word and the direction.
Thank you. I think that's very good advice. And I think we will need to do much more in terms of execution, which is something that India has been preparing to do, but has not been able to fulfill to that extent. But it's good that we are on a path of the global brand building, which has started now. And so I'd like to move over to Piyush now and ask you, how can we continue building on the brand narrative that has been built by India over the last few years externally? And I ask you this because there are rapid geopolitical shifts which are happening. And how do the leaders here, for example, in India, leverage brand India in such a volatile scenario?
Yeah, thanks, Anil. I think the most important thing for us to elaborate on this topic is to first understand what is the difference between a product and a brand. And the difference is between a tangible and an intangible. So, one is about functionality, is what's being talked about, that we have to demonstrate that we are doing good things. And the second is how that tangible converts into an intangible, where you're seen to be, where you look at yourselves with pride, where the world looks at you as a potential for being the next guy. That is not about talking, that is about doing. I think the more you do, the more you will be in a position to talk about it. The world will talk about you. Brands are not what we talk about ourselves, and I am talking in terms of the chocolates and the works that I sell, or the polio problems that I am involved with solving. Is that what does the world say about you is the brand. What I say about myself is the product. Now in the days ahead, and I think G20 was a good example of one demonstration of putting on a platter as to what India is all about, what does India believe in, India believes in partnerships, and brands are about partnerships. Even if you take down to the level, not the pressure cooker, but chocolates, it's about partnership with the consumer. It's about partnerships with your traders. It's about partnerships at many levels. And that's what we have to look at. More, I think, Olympic happens, then that's another huge partnership. But on a day-to-day basis, it's about business partnerships. It's about definite manifestation of those partnerships, what we have been able to do in the surrounding countries in difficult times. It's about partnerships. They were not about what will I get if I do this for Sri Lanka? What will I get if I do this for Nepal? It was all about, am I a good neighbor? Can I help you solve your problem? And that's what makes a brand happen. The way we stood up in the entire Ukraine scenario, the way we are behaving in the Israel scenario, that we are not pandering to somebody else's way of thinking. We have a point of view. And that's what will create brand India. And that's what will take us to 200, 300 years back that somebody spoke about today. We didn't have media in those days to say that this is the GDP of India in the world scenario. But the world travels. The world travels all the time. That's how brand images are made. And that's how I hope that we go in that direction so that brands are made internationally, products are made here. Thank you.
Thank you, Piyush. And I think you've done a lot in terms of branding internally within India. So let me ask you another supplementary question there. So looking internally now, how do we balance our national priorities and aspirations with our external vision and our brand? Because between our internal priorities and an external brand, are they sort of considered complementary, or they pose a challenge to our businesses and our
I think that's
administrators?
exactly, they have to be complementary. You can't be something and expect to be seen as somebody else. You will have to demonstrate, you will have to go and say, this is what India is all about. This is what we're doing in digital scenario. So the world wants to be like you. So our priorities, you have to play to your strengths. You can't play to somebody else's strengths. But make those strengths stronger so the more of the world talks about you. So I don't think it's inconsistent. I don't think you can be two people. You have to be yourself and do it better, better, and better.
Thank you. Now, Tom, as a business leader, how do you see the future of the Asian economy? And what do you feel are the big factors which are influencing the future of the Asian economy?
So thank you. So first of all, I think if I was going to put on my sort of scenario planning hat, I'll be thinking through, well, what are we most uncertain of? And what is the most important things that are going to impact upon the economy within the region? And I think we've talked about quite a few of them today, but I think if I can summarize, I think there are three key areas. The first one is around artificial intelligence. We will have some countries that are able to use artificial intelligence to augment, to improve, to optimize their value systems, but we will have some countries where jobs will be replaced and jobs will go elsewhere. I also see there the potential for geo-economic fracturing, which my colleagues on the panel will know far more about than I do, and how that will rewrite global supply chains with the potential for different polarized supply chains going through Asia. But then lastly, and I think this is the most important and is worth unpacking, climate change and the green transition. And I think we've talked a bit around vulnerability. There are a number of countries within Asia, India being one of them, where climate change will have the biggest impact. But also how the economy and global economic poles start to link decarbonization to economic cost and economic price. And I think we have a number of aspects with regards to the carbon border adjustment mechanism coming through in Europe, the requirement by America to put in the Securities Exchange Commission looking at carbon all the way down the supply chain. But also I think we have to see climate change as a massive opportunity. There will be new sectors, new technology, new intellectual property, new jobs. And for example, one of these would be the capturing, removal and permanent storage of carbon from the atmosphere, which India could be the global leader, providing 30% of the global requirement, $80 billion, and it's currently being led by an Indo-Danish company within this country. These are these opportunities that we could provide jobs, we could look at improving our agricultural systems, and we could generate substantial flows of capital from the global north to the global south. So I think we have to see this as an opportunity, not just a vulnerability.
You want to add something about the venture which is on between India and Norway?
You mean Denmark, I guess.
Yes,
huh?
no, Denmark.
But, yes. Okay. No, but I think what we are talking about is we have to take it up to a higher level. I mean, for India and developing countries of the global south to move forward, you need to bring the 5 S's that are part of our kind of agenda with India. And it's the scale of India. It's not just how many people you are here. It's also the leased as well as unleashed capabilities and capacities that you have. I think you have huge opportunities there. Skills from Denmark, which means technologies, practices, and so forth. We'd like to transfer that to you. We'd like to invest in your transition. And one thing that you mentioned is part of that. Then we have to really to focus on speed. Things are really moving fast. Climate change is hitting your and my daily life. We have to do something about it. We can't do it without India. We have the SDGs coming up. We have every day a change in our livelihood, so that we have to really work for speed. The 4th S will be scope, because whatever we are doing should not just be for the 2 of us. It should be for all of us. I mean, Indo-Danish, fine, that's great. I'm supportive of that. I live from it. I'm praising it. But we need to bring it to Africa and to all the poorer countries in the world who do not have exactly the same opportunities. And last but not least, sustainability. There should be no way, and the brand of India should be that we are setting the new direction for a sustainable development and global order. That's the only way forward. Dhanyavad.
Thank you.
I'm from Denmark. Anil.
Piyush, can we come back to you there on that? What are the top 3 things that each one of us should be doing as leaders to continue building the brand that is India today?
I'll stick to what I said earlier. One is partnership. It's not because it's Piyush Pandey, it's all P's. So, so it's partnerships, it's people, and it's pride. Partnerships, people, and pride. When we get a combination of that, I'm talking about people, he just said it, we'll have to look at people and their day-to-day problems before we jump to larger ambitions on climate issues. A guy sitting 2 months from now in Delhi and burning a tire to stay alive, go and talk to him about global warming, and he'll tell you that I'm trying to plan tomorrow morning if I survive. So it'll be partnerships, people, and pride.
Thank you. Now, Tom, coming back to you on something on innovation and entrepreneurship. How does that foster economic growth in building a stronger brand India?
Well, I think we need to come at this from the position of 12 million people entering the workforce each year. There needs to be new sectors, new business in order to accommodate this. And the Prime Minister is suggesting that entrepreneurs are growth ambassadors. I think this is a great way to look at trying to create the sectors that those 12 million people will need to go into. I think just building on this point around the G20, I think one of the key messages that I took away was this shift from self-reliant India and this evolution into India being a global solution provider for the world. And for me, that requires massive innovation. It requires development of intellectual property. It requires development of technology, but also skills to stay ahead of artificial intelligence and to make sure there are jobs for people to come into in a new economy, because it will not look like it does today.
So, Ambassador Svane, once more, your last question before we wrap up. What are the key factors which are contributing to how Asian economies have risen to demonstrate their prominence on the international stage?
I think the best answer is India. India has to set the lead and take the charge here. And that will be the best way, because you are a democracy. You have 1.4 billion people. You have the youngest demography of the world. You have innovation as a big driver. You are creating a lot of unicorns. So you have to continue the track that you have already embarked upon. That's the only way forward. And you have to build up these resilient supply chains. And I think you have come really, really, really far. See what was agreed at least at the margins of the G20, the IMEC. This corridor is not just about moving metal boxes from India towards Europe. It's also about technology. It's also about people. It's about many, many, many things. So you should really be combining the leading force of Asia. If you make it right, you will set the new target for all of us. And I am very fond of all the missions that your Honorable Prime Minister has launched on the 15th of August each and every year. And the first one was Swachh Bharat, then Make in India. And I do hope that if we are going to succeed, and you are going to succeed, it can only be Make India great, good, and green again. Dhanyavad.
Thank you very much. I think we've come to the end of our panel, and we are in time. So thank you very much for your participation, and let's give ourselves a big hand. Thank you.
Ogilvy and Martha.